Welcome back, everyone. Last time we took a look at the first half of the Dome Plateau Trail. On this episode, we're looking at the second half before we push on to the Dome Plateau Overlook. This is my first time starting the trail from this direction, so let's take a look. On this trip, I was planning to run the Dome Plateau twice, once by myself and once with some friends later in the week. If the electric blanket fending off the 40-degree temperature overnight hadn't worked so well, I might have made the overlook as the sun crested the mountains in the east. With the faint light of approaching dawn on the horizon, I headed down the start of the trail from the stockade just off of Highway 121. The trail begins as a smooth dirt county road with the staging area off the east side of the road about 5 to 10 minutes in, just in case you need another convenient spot to air down. Another few minutes in, and the road narrows down to a generous shelf road that leads into a canyon that splits part of the upper plateau we explored in part 1. Eventually, you'll arrive at the first gate. You may hear this from me a lot, but access to most trails we enjoy is a privilege. Don't abuse it. Close the gate behind you when you go through. Ranchers do have cattle on this trail frequently, so don't let them out. This trip to Moab was a series of firsts for me. My favorite first was wheeling with friends on this trail. We hit the trail my second time that week during broad daylight. When you get out of the canyon, you'll soon be heading up a rocky hill. As always on this trail, look for your best line. It's there. If you're good with that, then hold on to it. You've got another 10 to 15 minutes of it. Nothing hard, but it'll keep your speed to a crawl. On the other side, you're rewarded with smooth, wide shelf roads that bring you to 2 old, abandoned cabins miners used back when there was an active uranium mine in the area. It's a unique piece of history to explore, and to see the small quarters such hard-working miners were living in. You might see some yellow-colored dirt and rocks in the trail ahead, and if reports are to be believed, it's not sulfur. Just leave the yellow dirt and rocks alone, you'll be fine. Remember those cattle I was talking about? For the 2 visits I made during this trip, this is where they were hanging out, between the cabins and the steep rocky slide down off the upper plateau. This was a big herd, but they were all well behaved and used to vehicles. The calves, of course, all wanted to play right in front of you if possible, so keep an eye out. That rocky slide I mentioned, well, it looks a bit sketchy, but really, it's not bad. That is, if you're paying attention to your GPS or map, that is. When I made my turn down to the rocky face of the upper plateau, I may have changed the music and left my OnX map off, thinking I would see the obvious turn in the trail ahead. At a certain point, something didn't quite feel right. I pulled my map back up, and yep, I had to back up for at least a football field or more before I had a spot to turn around without dropping off the trail. We live and we learn, and then take our own advice. With the way revealed to me again, I turned down the now obvious trail for one of the steepest portions of the trail as a whole. An item or 2 may have shifted in the back of my rig on the way down, but overall, easy, even with my departure angle. Put it in 4 low and creep your way down. There's really only one line for most of it, although I guess anyone could get creative on this one. You thought you were totally done with cows, didn't you? Well, you haven't made it to the next gate yet. You'll reach it in a couple of minutes after your rocky descent. This one isn't barbed wire, thankfully, and it's a bit more manageable overall. After the gate, you should be cattle-free and safe to enjoy some throttle therapy, with good visibility and minimal rocks and dips. You should be able to spot most, as long as you don't let the throttle get out of hand. Your next stop along the trail is a series of mostly shallow caves and a couple of springs in the face of the upper plateau. With so many interesting spots to explore, this makes a great lunch stop on this leg of the trail, depending on when you're passing through. There may even be one cave you can fit your rig into. The caves and formations along the plateau face will distract you from the main trail, and, if you have the time, is all part of exploring the Dome Plateau. I unintentionally followed the trail that winds down the length of the upper plateau for about 10 minutes before I looked at my map and turned back towards the main trail. From this point on, GPS maps are your best friend. You will run across many trail junctions all the way through to the Overlook. Signs identifying the Dome Plateau Trail don't pop up very often, but at some intersections you'll be able to spot them. After what may feel like all day, or like no time at all, you will catch up with the first half of the trail from last episode. When you do, you'll be faced with what seems like a more complicated choice than it is. To the left, you can head up the first half of the trail towards the new Dewey Bridge. Straight ahead looks like two different trails, but there's just some bushes in the middle of the trail. It's the first bypass option for the Boca Ledge, and it will take you towards the Overlook. Still thinking about the ledge? Go to the right. A couple of minutes down the trail, you'll get a chance at a second bypass of La Boca Ledge. Still feeling confident? Move on to the right. A few turns later, and you've arrived at the Boca Ledge. There is what's referred to as a bypass to the left side, but from what I could see on this trip, it's deteriorated to the point that I took the plunge down the ledge instead. While this doesn't look bad, I'll turn on the audio right before you learn how important a good departure angle is. Yes, I jam down the trails to tunes, and sometimes the trail syncs up with what's playing. Not challenging, but a good rear bumper test for your rig. Thankfully, all I found was rock dust on the hitch receiver. Lest you worry, not far away is the ledge's baby brother. Just keep an eye on my rig's shadow on the trail ahead to see how that goes. As I said, there are 2 trail bypasses to avoid these ledges. About a football field or so down the trail is your reward for not destroying your rig. La Boca Arch. As beautiful as many of the arches in Arches National Park, this one you can climb up and explore pretty safely. With 2 parking corrals in case it's busy, it's a stop you won't regret. Bring your camera, a snack, some good shoes, and maybe a drone to explore here. And of course, make sure you've got a good SD card. This was the only surviving footage from the trip, and at least it will live on in my memory. You know, like before the internet. Back on the trail, you're now ready for the final push to the Overlook. There's no large rocky sections ahead, no technical driving. Most of the way is obvious, but a map is handy in a couple of spots, as are more cross trails here, and even a county road, like this one, County Road 345. The next 2 trails on your left are where we rejoin with the bypasses from earlier. Want more throttle therapy? You'll get plenty with good visibility. So much so, you may miss at least one turn. I would advise you not to miss the last sharp turn before the Overlook, however. This gate pops up quick and is almost always closed. Throttle down or not, the anticipation of the end of the trail slows this section down to a crawl for me. The scene in Monty Python where Lancelot is charging towards the castle guards over and over again. Yeah, every bit of it. The handful of minutes left in the trail felt like that. If you're up for it, the trail continues here, down closer to the edge, but use good sense on how close you get with your rig. Many locations similar to this in Moab have been steel roped off to vehicles in recent years due to some unfortunate choices by some. I was glad I did the Overlook portion of the trail days apart from each other. It really gave me a sense of how the view can change. The first trip was much cooler. There were snowy cloud fronts and heavy fog closer to the river elevation. It lent a muted and serene beauty to the view. A few days later, and the color popped, and it was like the whole area decided to show off for a little while. Whether you park down close or hike down from above, you have to take in this view. You can see why I put this trail in my top 10 must-do in Moab. All things come to an end, and here you get to pick your ending. Back the way you came, or back down the other half of the trail. There is no wrong answer, and plenty to see along the way, either direction. If you came in a group, this trail goes from awesome to epic, just in the sharing. With so many side trails to explore, you'd have to take a few days to see it all. I hope you found this two-parter informative, and maybe a little entertaining. New trips are in the works, and some old footage still needs going through, so subscribe and hit the notifications for the next vid. See you next time.